Well, hello to the First Baptist family and to the Friends of First Baptist. This is our midweek update for January 19th, 2022. This is our 3-2-1. Let's jump right in. Here's three things I want you to know. Wednesdays at First, we started that last week. Our courses will continue throughout this entire remainder of the winter and the spring. I'm teaching through 1 Samuel. We have a men's group. There's a women's group that's going to start in a few weeks. There's a healthy living class. And there's a grief share group that's meeting on Wednesday nights. Especially for those of you who are dealing with how to mourn and how to move on, I would invite you to that group. So Wednesdays at First, meal at 5. All our discipleship opportunities start at 6. Second thing I want you to know, this next Sunday we're going to be highlighting Water's Edge Ministry. It's basically the foundation of Oklahoma Baptist, and we'll be highlighting our own foundation here at First Baptist Tulsa. We're going to talk a little bit about those, but what we'll be talking a lot about is the opportunity to create a will and an estate plan. Listen, we will all die, and we make a choice. Do we want to decide what will happen to our stuff and to our kids, or do we want somebody else to decide that? And I know a will is something that people say, I'll get around to it one day. I think especially if you have young kids, you should take this opportunity very seriously to create a will. If you step into this process, it can be done by Easter. And with the resources of our foundation, you can basically have your will done for free. And so there's every opportunity to do this. So I would encourage you to listen very carefully, and you can have your will put together by Easter. It's very important, especially if you have young kids. Third thing I want you to know about, January 30th, big day for our church. I have my pastor's coffee. If you're looking at joining, great opportunity to sign up for my coffee. We'll get to know one another. But that night is our volunteer banquet. We call it our red carpet event, to say thank you for all of our volunteers, to all of our volunteers, for the way you serve God's kingdom in this church. So you should have already received an invite if you're a volunteer. If you have not, this is your invitation. We want you to be a part of that evening and let us appreciate you for the way you serve and the gifts that you loan this church so freely. Okay? So those are the three things. The two chapters in the Bible I want you to read is Exodus 5 and 6. So remember where we are in the story. God has called Moses to deliver the Hebrews from Egyptian slavery. And God said, Moses, I want you to go to Pharaoh. I want you to say these words. Moses does exactly as he's commanded. So what 5 and 6 of Exodus are going to do is challenge the belief that we often have that if I obey God, life will be easy, because that's not what happens here. You see, the Hebrews were in charge of making bricks for their building projects, for the Egyptian building projects. And Pharaoh goes, well, you Hebrews have a lot of time on your hand. If Moses is complaining about, going free, tell you what, we have provided straw for the making of bricks up to this point. Now you're going to have to resource your own straw. You're going to have to source that for yourself. And by the way, the number of bricks, the quota remains unchanged. And so there was an additional burden put on an already overburdened, enslaved people. But wait, Moses did exactly what God commanded him to do. Yes. Sometimes when we follow God, we trust Him for the long term. Sometimes in the short term, things are going to get more difficult. So right at the end of chapter 5, it said, Moses returned to the Lord and said, Why, Lord, have you brought trouble on this people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all. A couple of great things in here is do we trust God enough with a process when things aren't easy? As Winston Churchill used to say, when you're going through hell, keep going. That we keep going through this. Do we trust God to work in a process even if we don't see immediate results? There's also a good teaching here about Moses taking his frustration to God. And I think our anger and our frustration can be prayed. It should be prayed. It should be dealt with in the presence of God. So chapter 6, a couple of things I want you to look for. Notice how Moses, in dealing with these big issues around him, seems kind of stuck on himself. He still is concerned about things that he faces day in and day out. Look at chapter 6, verse 12. Moses said to the Lord, If the Israelites will not listen to me, why would Pharaoh listen to me, since I speak with faltering lips? Then jump over to verse 30. But Moses said to the Lord, Since I speak with faltering lips, why would Pharaoh listen to me? He kind of seems stuck on his own ability, as though that's the key to success. I do notice here in those two verses I just read, in verse 12, the Pharaoh comes first and then his faltering lips. In verse 30, it's his faltering lips and the Pharaoh. He's concerned about these two things, and at any given time, he's concerned about situations and people around him, and he's concerned about his own ability. And then it flips. He's concerned about his own ability and less about the situation around him. Moses is a great teaching example for all of us, that sometimes for God to use us, we have to get over ourselves first. Look at that. And I'm going to encourage you, as I did on Sunday, hold your nerve. When things get really challenging, trust God is working through the process. Realize He can handle all the difficult people and the difficult circumstances, and it's not about our ability. It's about trusting the Lord. So this is the way I want you to pray this week. And as I talk to people, the anxiety and the angst of our culture is just continuing to ramp up in our culture, especially as COVID spreads yet again. I'm going to give you a prayer. This is Isaiah 42, verse 16. And this is a prayer that I spent some time with on Saturday. Actually, it starts out with a promise. It's God speaking. We can turn these words back to God in a prayer. Isaiah 42:16. I will lead the blind by ways they have not known. Along unfamiliar paths I will guide them. I will turn their darkness into light before them and make the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do. I will not forsake them. I want you to take that one verse this week. We are all going down this way that we have not been before. We are all on unfamiliar paths. The world seems very dark. Let's pray. God, I feel like I'm blind. Lead me in ways I have not known. There are unfamiliar paths. Guide me. Turn the darkness into light before me. Make the rough places smooth under my feet. Walk with me every single day. I give our church this prayer from Isaiah 42:16. Let's hold on to that. Hold fast to God as He holds fast to us. The Lord bless you this week. I'll see you soon.